newer subject, but Obamacare is a disaster. And I said, we're gonna do something about it. I saved Obamacare when we got John McCain's negative vote. You know, he voted against it after campaigning for many, many years. He said, thumbs down. It was an amazing night. But we're going to fix it because it's a catastrophe for family budgets.
That was Donald Trump recently at one of his traveling circus rallies in Iowa. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, joined by a leader in healthcare legislation, a leader in all of those key provisions that we see in the Affordable Care Act, a leader in lowering prescription drug prices. Welcome, everybody. Wisconsin's Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin. Senator Baldwin, welcome to the show.
It is so great to join you. Thanks for having me.
So when you see Donald Trump and potential opponents of yours in the great state of Wisconsin talking about removing health care so cavalierly like that from 40 million Americans, what's your response to that?
Yeah, well, there's no better way to get votes than to rip people's health care away. I mean, my goodness, it's hard to fathom that they're returning to this, especially when so many people now can get insurance that couldn't before. Think about the 135 million Americans who have some sort of pre-existing health condition. Before the Affordable Care Act, the big insurance companies could just say, no, we're not going to cover you because you are a survivor of breast cancer or you have diabetes or you're HIV positive. We changed all that with the Affordable Care Act. And I have to give it just a focus on the amendment that I got included in the Affordable Care Act, and that is allowing young people to stay on their parents' health insurance until they turn 26. That has been so transformative for so many millions who weren't able to find health care before, and now through their parents can stay on. And for kids with pre-existing health conditions, that's an enormous step forward.
Like, you've been working on this your entire career in the state legislature, in the House of Representatives, as a member of the Senate. And so I want to show you this clip right here. This is when Donald Trump was in office. This is from May of 2020. And, you know, as someone who's worked their entire life on this in very granular, detail-oriented, you know the complexities around this. So when Donald Trump just cavalierly says what I'm about to show you and then doesn't do it, just kind of the way that's also psychologically kind of torturing people who rely on healthcare, who need healthcare, dangling it, playing with it, manipulating people. Let me show you this clip when he was in office and he claimed 2 weeks, I've got something coming. Here, play this clip.
But what we are doing is we want to terminate healthcare for under Obamacare because it's bad. And we're replacing it with a great healthcare at far less money, and it includes pre-existing conditions.
Like, do the people at Wisconsin, when they see that, go, you know what? Him and his ilk, these other MAGA Republicans, people potentially who are going to be running against you in 24, it's all just a fraud. It's all just a con. And do they see in you, look, you've been doing this for decades and decades of actually getting results. Are the people getting it?
Well, that's a great question, because when I think about our battleground state in Wisconsin, there's some who are MAGA Republicans who blindly follow what somebody like Donald Trump says. And then there's the people who have actually had deep and perhaps troubling experiences in the healthcare system. I remember a mom that I met when I was running in Wisconsin when Trump was still president, so back in 2018. And she told a story of her son with rare cancer. He's in Children's Hospital. She's by his bedside every day, just trying to do anything she can to help him in his struggle to recover, to overcome this childhood cancer. And she remembers sitting there on election night in 2016 and realizing that Trump was winning. And she burst into tears because she understood the consequences to the potential of his healthcare being ripped away, never being able to get healthcare again because he has a pre-existing condition, worrying about what would happen when he turned 21 and would no longer have access to his parents' health insurance. All of that flashed before her at this moment when all she cared about was helping her son recover and fight cancer. There are a lot of Wisconsinites who get it, who understand when he makes threats like that it is real and it has real consequences, real life or death consequences. And we got to make sure that people know next year when they're preparing to vote in all our elections, who's on the side of strengthening our healthcare system, who's on the side of lowering the prices of prescription drugs, and who would throw it out.
Ensuring all Americans have access to healthcare is very personal to you. And you've recently posted an image on social media of an illness you experienced growing up. And can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I was raised by my grandparents, my maternal grandparents. When I was 9, I had a serious childhood illness similar to spinal meningitis. That wasn't the exact diagnosis, but people are familiar with that. And I was in the hospital for 3 months. My grandparents had health insurance. They read the fine print, of course, it doesn't cover grandchildren. I wasn't a legal dependent. And so they certainly did not burden me with that realization when I was struggling to survive in the hospital. But they tried to fix it as soon as they could. And so they went to try to find me an individual health plan. And back then, the healthcare insurance industry could discriminate. They could simply say no to somebody who had a pre-existing condition. And so I went uninsured throughout my life until I was an adult, until I had insurance offered through my employment. And I felt that was wrong. I saw so many people who were struggling in the healthcare system, trying to stand up to big, powerful health insurance companies or pharmaceutical companies just so that they could get medication that they needed to survive, or a coverage of, comprehensive coverage to cover whatever illness or injury they were contending with. And the Affordable Care Act changed so much of that. And it's not like we still don't have a lot to do. And in fact, we had a recent leap forward with requiring now Medicare to start negotiating with the big pharmaceutical companies to lower the cost of prescription drugs, like we've been able to do for insulin, which is capped now at no more than $35 a month out of pocket for seniors. And soon we hope for everyone who relies on insulin. But we're getting results. We're standing up to those big, powerful interests, and we're moving the ball forward. And we got to continue to do that. But elections matter, and next week will be pivotal.
And I don't want to paint this really dark and bleak picture of what you think happens in the event of a Trump kind of MAGA takeover in 2024. But I think we have to. I think we have to, in very clear terms, explain to the American people what could and potentially happen in the event of Trump being in office, in the event of a MAGA takeover, in the Senate and the House. What would that do to the tens of millions of Americans who rely on the Affordable Care Act? What would they expect could happen?
Well, millions would lose insurance right away if we got rid of the provision that allows young people to stay on their parents' health insurance. People sort of between the age of 18 and 25, that's the age where before the Affordable Care Act, most didn't have insurance. If you go right from high school into employment, those first jobs don't usually have a health benefit package. And if you're doing part-time school, part-time work, or full-time school, often you can't find affordable comprehensive insurance there. The pre-existing conditions, as I said, probably 135 million Americans have some sort of pre-existing condition that prior to the Affordable Care Act would have led a big, powerful insurance company to just say, no, we're not going to cover you. And we've prevented that. We've made that illegal. But there's also issues of affordability. And we haven't even talked about the fact that Republicans have taken aim at Medicare, an earned benefit. People who work and they pay into the Medicare system throughout their working lives with the guarantee that when you retire, when you turn 65, that you have a health care benefit that helps you in your retirement years. And Republicans have repeatedly taken aim talking about privatizing Medicare, talking about cutting it back. And so we need to make sure that voters are aware of what they're taking aim at and the consequences for families across America and across Wisconsin.
I had the opportunity to interview President Biden in Pueblo, Colorado, and one of the topics that we discussed was just normalcy, democracy. I showed him some clips of the kind of new MAGA Republicans and the things that they're saying. I showed him a video of Lauren Boebert. I want to show you a video right now. This is just from earlier today. This is the Speaker of the House. This is MAGA Mike Johnson. And here he is talking about how he wants to blur the faces of the January 6th insurrectionists in the videos he wants to release against the recommendations of the Capitol Police so that the insurrectionists can be protected from arrest and prosecution by the Department of Justice for leading an insurrection against the United States of America. Let me just show you. This just happened moments ago. Play the clip.
Trust the American people to draw their own conclusions. They should not be dictated by some narrative and accept that as fact. So they can review the tapes themselves. We're going through a methodical process of releasing them as quickly as we can. As you know, we have to blur some of the faces of persons who participated in the events of that day because we don't want them to be retaliated against and to be charged by the DOJ and to have other concerns and problems. So that's a slow process to get it done. We're working steadily on it. We've hired additional personnel to do that, and all of those tapes ultimately at the end will be out so everybody can see them and draw their own conclusion. Let me go.
And Senator, when Donald Trump gives these rallies, when these Republicans go to these events, they don't do the national anthem, or maybe they do it briefly. They sing a song by the J6th Choir, some of the most violent insurrectionists. They do the J6th anthem. Like, these are not normal. Like, this is not normal. And how is that conveyed to the people of Wisconsin and this country? There's so much info. There's so much disinfo out there. It's why I just want to show these clips. But sometimes I'm like, this ain't normal.
Yes. Well, thank you for creating a forum where we can push back against the misinformation and disinformation. It's very, very troubling to see the clip that you just shared with Speaker Johnson, an election denier from the 2020 election, who is now in the in the line for the presidency. It's very frightening to hear what he is saying and the disinformation that he is spreading. And thank goodness for the forum to push back. Frankly, the public release of these videos is one thing. Thank goodness our law enforcement has access to the raw footage of the day. I was in the Capitol on January 6th. I saw how violent that insurrection was. And it's essential that people be prosecuted for their role in trying to overturn the will of the people in a free and fair election.
And Senator, any final words to the people of the great state of Wisconsin, the people of our country?
Well, to the great state of Wisconsin and all its people, I think we're a state that understands how important it is that we participate in the political process and we vote. And the stakes could not be higher, especially as it comes to, we've talked mostly about healthcare, but our very democracy relies on people participating.
I want to thank you, Senator Tammy Baldwin, for joining us again here on the MeidasTouch Network. Everybody, check out TammyBaldwin.com to learn more. Senator Baldwin is in a very important race in 2024. You can get all the information right there at TammyBaldwin.com. Senator Baldwin, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And everybody, we're on our way to 2 million subscribers. Hit subscribe, and you can check us out on wherever podcasts are available. And have a great day.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.